yet. I don't know what's wrong with me, you know. You'd think I'd fucking learn, but no. Anyway, this is a poem. I wrote a poem about 15, 16, 17 years ago, and I thought I was being really clever. And it kind of got to me. And so I had to write it's not quite a sequel, but it's a resolve. So I wrote a poem called The Garden Wars, about a war between the bracken and the gorse. It's a good poem. I'm not going to read that now. I'm not. You know, I really aren't. And like I said, I thought I was being really clever. Anyway, I wrote this poem, booklet, called When Peace Broke Out in the Garden. I'll try and go through it because it takes a while. It's a bit of a journey, but it's all true. Once upon a time there was a field, and in this field there was a valley, and in that valley there was a garden, and in the garden there was a war. And the plants turned in on each other, and there was a time of terrible trouble and tormentation, went on from generation to generation. And the world watched helplessly in horror as the war was waged. The bracken and the gorse were the main source of the irreversible rage that roused the wrath of the rabble in this little scratch of earth. And I went on and on in a spiral for far too long for either one to be able to win anything that could ease the hurt and the pain that they inflicted on each other. It looked like it would go on forever, and all the other shrubbery had to learn to live with it, fit in or fight it out. Until a council of peace was formed over in the neighbouring fields, chaired by the ash, the oak and the alder, mediated by the wren, the robin and the rook. And the efforts were undertook to create negotiations. Word was the wren and the robin had been covertly carrying messages between the bracken and the gorse all winter long, unbeknownst to anyone. All military ranks from all plants were stood down to wait the outcome of these talks. And there they stood head to head, hood to hood, stick to stick, stalk to stalk. And no one dared blink, and no one dared talk. Hardened veteran soldiers, stoically awaiting to carry out orders, kill or be killed, trying. Even the wind held her breath, as the mists of perspiration arose from the valley floor. And the tension from these talks was nearly unbearable. The possibilities of peace were nearly too painful to hope for. And the whole field was focused on this for now. It felt like the last throw of the dice, and waves of whisperings were heard from the tops of the trees. The bracken threw a truly defiant shape out there in the open, thin, gaunt, shattered souls with long, crooked shadows, standing down as erect as their brittle limbs would allow, half-hung and haunted looking, clinging to the corpses of their cause. But the blunt, brutal truth that war can never bear fruit isn't lost on them either. Even as they fall to their deaths, upright as they often have done, like sculpted sacrifices, just to teach their young how to die in absolute defiance. That said, they eventually advanced to the rear and laid down their arms for the peace talks to continue this year. And the gorse looks every bit as terrifying and uncompromising as he intends to look. He stands stout, strong and proud, an unbroken presence in a fortress of thorns. And even the wind tries to blow around him as she exhales, but the bite of last winter's bitter northern gales burnt back a bright young bushel of his younger shrubs, and now he just didn't feel that good. He too let a few of the long grasses grow in between them to soften some of the blows in between them. The snowdrops set the scene early one morning in late January, standing out there on top of the hill, standing vigil over the latest corpse in this pitiful, protracted war, their heads bowed in solemn prayer. From the tips of their petals fell tears, forming a pool at their feet that cut through the frost and ran like a river straight down the valley floor. And now nothing could ever be as it was before. They had made a point of being seen, standing up out there in absolute silence as if in a dream, while the hail and sleet turned to rain, making a river of a stream that rushed on ahead to wake up the weary down the war-torn valley in the war-torn field. of purple archangels glowing in out of the old foot of the gatepost wall began their day as they do, with a prayer. A very particular prayer, a bonding prayer, a prayer that can combine everyone's prayers. And the primroses responded with white blossoms, still slightly afraid to stand out too much, but the bluebells were the first to fully feel what it was to answer this call. As they arose up together, one and all, imploring the bracken not to go back to war. And the blackthorn opened white, bright blossoms on a young sapling above the fortress of thorns. The sun was rising to shine, and suddenly everything went silent. There was a pause in the talks. The shadow of the hill fell on the field. The cold returned, carried by the teeth of the wind, like a reminder of those last little bits of frost. Still hidden in behind the stones, like doubts in their shadows, unhealed wounds, unburied lies, unresolved vendettas, and dark insinuation threats. And the gorse blamed the bracken, and the bracken blamed the gorse, and back and forth, and back and forth. And the blossoms began to fall from the blackthorn tree, and the plants were making plans to go back to war. The rooks were called in from the neighbouring fields, and they spread out and fanned about, taking time to listen to all the warring parties' H-masters' concerns, of which there were many. A fear came to the fore, there could be worse in store, and until enough promises of peace were pronounced, armaments buried, prisoners released, it was back to killing and war, as they were before. But eventually the rooks formed a parliament in the garden, and brought back the basis of a negotiation at a negotiating table. But negotiating peace between warring wildflowers isn't and never has been easy. Some plant types are better suited to a life of strife. The thistle, the nettle, and the briar, for example, they don't seem too keen on this push for peace. Their separate strongholds have been hard fought for, and they're bound by solemn oaths to defend them. Any peace agreement will have to include their unassailable right to bear bristles, stings, and thorns. And the thistle intends to carry on regardless, agitating his way through the outcrops. As long as he has prickles, he'll keep on being a thistle, and he'll hustle and hassle and bustle and battle each and every one who dares to grow around him. He does look a bit isolated this spring though. A lot of his enablers have put their weapons down. And the nettle will have questions to answer if the peace talks are to hold, like his behaviour in and around the rushes, and how his being there was all for their own protection and mightn't wash anymore. They've been trading in pain for far too long, and everyone's just a bit too sore. And the briar, or the bramble as she likes to be addressed on occasion, bristles with seething malcontent and irritation at every word uttered by the ash, the oak, and the alder. Easy to pontificate about the benefits of peace when you're 50 feet above the rest of us mere survivors down here in this God for Jesus and Valley. You mind your peace, pal, and I'll mind mine. And some of the more extreme elements of the dandelion are spitting fury too. Peace was not what they were fighting for. Peace was never their designated destination, and they claim that this is their domain, and they, and only they, have the God-given right to barge about the field in the month of March, declaring dominion over both sides of the valley and give the garden a good going over. And a ragload and bucalons getting overly interested in this area doesn't make any of this peace talks any easier either. And I can only say what I see. And the secret settlements that will have to be made to bind this cessation of hostilities are just that, secret. Only the fungus is well below the undergrowth truly know who's to be whose and what's to grow, what's to come and what's to go. But the word got out from the silent peace talks that the war was called off and that peace was to be declared in the garden. And so peace was declared in the garden. And immediately a flush of daisies appeared, and the hills began to blush a little, and the sun climbed higher in the sky, and the rooks flew back to the neighbouring fields. An absolute pandemonium ensued. No one really knew what to do. Would you believe it? Was it actually true? And the dandelions appeared to hover about, daring to dandle about in the demilitarised zones, a few at first and then by the dozen. The hawthorn burst into flower, covered all around her in white, soft, pink blossoms. The bluebells beamed deep, silent sighs of relief, undulating like a murmuration of starlings. This is what they were praying for, so long for. And the buttercups began popping their heads up here and there unannounced. Even the plantains with their soldiery airs started to sway a bit. The higher they got, the more they forgot to be standing straight and looking so serious. And the rushes rejoiced righteously and drank deeper with every sup, savouring each and every wave of relief that washed over them. And the irises appeared at the other end of the field, indicating some activity from a deeper water source. And wild garlic resurfaced in around the back of the bracken, like a brass band, honking their horns. They knew that this coming summer would go down in history. This was it. This was the shit. This was the moment when winter turns to spring, spring turns to summer. War becomes peace, and peace becomes normal. Night turns to day, and frost turns to river. Death turns to life, and time turns to rhythm. And that just goes to show that the divine drive to grow that's in every living thing can only be held back for so long, no matter how urgent or important your war is.